Hello, and welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show daily dose. It is time to pick apart the Wallabies' loss to the Irish and recap some of the other rugby union scores very briefly around the grounds from the autumn internationals. Be very focused on the Wallabies in the light of that drubbing at the hands of the Irish. But of course, if you haven't already, hit subscribe down below, hit the bell notification if you're tuning in on YouTube. Otherwise, just make sure you subscribe on your favorite platform and check us out on your favorite social media channels, whether it be X, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, where you can find us at The Chris Mack Show and keep up to date with all of the black and white of your sport. No grey opinions here. But let's get into the Wallabies, and it started poorly. It finished poorly. There was some glimpses in between, but it was too far, too few to really measure and consider as a decent performance. There's a lot of things we could pick apart in terms of the Wallabies' performance, but it came down to a number of key areas. They couldn't break that 2-test skid. It now makes it 3 and just turns things around as they have basically cruelled themselves for a top 6 seeding in the Rugby World Cup. They are sliding down the rankings, and fair to say, deservedly so. Joe Schmidt had rung the changes for this Wallaby side, but they didn't really come to any effect. The Irish got out to a flyer. They led 14-0 after 10 or 12 minutes very early on. Mac Hansen, the Aussie-born, just to add more salt to the wounds like it was last week against Italy when Liner scored, got the opening 2 tries and they led early. The Aussies showed some fight and grit in that back end of the first half, got within some striking distance. Hansen scored a third before half-time. Fraser McWright got across. Ikavalu got across as well. And all of a sudden, the Aussies went to the break at 19-14. And there was some marginal hope, I guess, but there was some underlying key issues that were really of concern. The amount of times James O'Connor looked lost or without support runners was really concerning in that first half. The handling errors, I know it was tough conditions, but it just wasn't at that world standard. The Irish showed that. They made some, but not nearly as many. I think that's an area where the Aussies really struggled, and it showed, especially later in the game. Key pieces, a slippery ball, yes. Tough conditions with the rain, the mist, the fog, all of those things. We can find excuses if we want, but have a look at how the Irish handled it versus how the Aussies did. And they're the little 1%ers that make a huge difference in terms of how these games play out. So for mine, that first half, it showed some hope, but it showed some frailties and some flaws as well. And the Irish ended up capitalising on these late in the second half as fatigue came. The main lot of changes, not the second lot of changes, the main lot of changes came on, and Australia started to fall away further and further. I was pretty disappointed, to be fair, with James O'Connor overall. He showed some moments, but just not enough. I don't know what the solution is at 10. I don't know if we've got a better option, and that might be half of the problem. Tane Edmed only had a small window in this test to really show anything, didn't really get much involvement, and that's unfortunate for him. But again, I don't know that he's going to be a proven performer at this level either. We'd love to see Liner back. That would be a huge in. I think he might be there. But in the meantime, we are really having to ask some questions. It's not looking great for our lineup. But come the second half, and the Irish came out flying. They really took it to us. And that showed. Obviously, no tries until late in the half. I think in total there was maybe 4 tries between the two sides in the last 10 minutes plus the added time that elapsed in the end with the Irish with ball in hand. Obviously, that penalty for the Irish, that did extend them out to an 8-point lead, which really looked like it rattled the Aussies a little bit. We started to make some of those changes, but the biggest Achilles heel for us, we had a number of chances inside their 22, and our lineouts, I think it was 6 or 7 lineouts in total that were lost. The Irish didn't lose a single lineout, so that was a real flaw, and it's something we need to sort out against the French before the game against the French next week. Really disappointing from the Aussies. A number of records broken here. It was the first time Ireland had passed 30 against the Wallabies. It was the first time Ireland passed 40 against the Wallabies. And it was also Ireland beating their longest ever winning streak. They had equaled it last test to make it 4 in a row, which equaled the run from 1958 to 1968. It's now 5 in a row, the longest ever losing streak for the Wallabies. So it's 2 weeks in a row we've extended our longest ever losing streak against another test nation. Last week it was Italy. This week it's Ireland. And things are just going from bad to worse. Those wins at home against the British and Irish Lions and the efforts against the South Africans, even the showings the improved showings against the All Blacks seem like a lifetime ago. It really feels like we don't know what our best 15 is, and maybe they're not available. It's a lot of chopping and changing, no consistency, and it's really disappointing. As I said, the second half, Billy Pollard did get across for one to add some respectability to the scoreline that looked not too bad at that stage. It got to 32-19 with tries, a try to Doris as well. But then those late tries to Baird and Henshaw just added salt to the wound. Crowley converting that one from the sideline right on full time. Another penalty to Crowley as well, and it just absolutely blew out. Unfortunately, again, a disappointing loss for the Wallabies. I'm a bit lost for words, to be honest. It was tough to watch. There was moments there. We had enough opportunities that we should have been much more in the contest. Again, we take some of those opportunities with those lineouts inside their 22 rather than just turning them over off the lineout. And maybe, those last couple of tries, we're actually in the game and it's a little bit more motivation, a little bit of a different picture, a little bit of different momentum. But it wasn't to be, unfortunately. And, we now continue on to look at France and see what we do. What the solutions are, I'm not sure. Look, there was some solid performances from a couple of players. Lenny Katau was good for mine. Campbell Kellaway looked pretty good when he came on. Joseph Suaalii was really good in defence. That one-on-one tackle with Bundyaki where he pushed him across the sideline was really strong. Again, not a lot of involvement. I want to see him involved more on the ball. I need to see more from that centre pairing. Again, that might come down to the fly half issue. Gordon was decent at fly half. Our forwards did okay, but again, no one really rattled any cages or did anything, to put an exclamation mark next to their name. So the Irish just outperformed us across the park, I think it's fair to say. And unfortunately, it's back to the drawing board as we head to the French game next week. So a big week of soul searching for the Wallabies, that is for certain. But we'll wait and see what comes of that. In terms of the other matches from the weekend, I think a lot of credit needs to go to the English. They got that big win over New Zealand, 33-19. Really good performance by the English. They were, under pressure early. The All Blacks scored the opening 2 tries, and I think they led 12-0 early on. The English got a try before half time, got back into the contest, and look, it was well played in the end. They sealed that out with a really good second half performance. The All Blacks didn't go away, but again, some continued pressure, continued performance. Got them there. A couple of early tries in that second half really got them into it and got them the lead, and they didn't look back from there. I think it's fair to say, sealing it with that late try to Roebuck just to add it to that 14-point margin. And wonderful effort from them. Tries to Ollie Lawrence, Sam Underhill, Dingwall, and Roebuck, and then George Ford doing the work from the tee and drop goals as well. So really good from them. As for the All Blacks, they'll go back to the drawing board. It probably surprised the margin more than anything. I think plenty of people fancied England in that game. In the other games, France did well to hold off a raging Fijian side by 13, 34-21. It was 21-all at early in that second half where the Fijians went toe-to-toe with them. So well done to the Fijians. It just shows how gritty they can be. The Welsh, look, they'll take a win at the moment after the way they've been playing in recent times. I think they only had one win from their previous 5, and they get it done against Japan 24-23. Despite having a red card at half time, so being a man down, certainly, they lost their winger Josh Adams on half time and scored 2 tries in the second half to come back and make sure they sealed that game. And a late penalty goal for them was the big difference in the end. Jared Evans converting that in added time, so that got them home. The Japanese looked like they might have snatched that one. Eddie Jones feels the wrath of the Red Dragon, so that's probably good as an Aussie fan, considering how we see Eddie Jones. And South Africa getting the job done, 32-14 against Italy. That went fairly well to script. South Africa continue to extend their winning run. And another one, Georgia, 38-17 winners over Canada. Not too much to go into there. Tomorrow morning, we'll see the Scots take on Argentina in probably a fairly key game, considering Argentina had that big win over Wales last week, 52-28. The Scots went down in a tough one to New Zealand after taking them deep at Murrayfield. So looking forward to seeing what comes of that game as well. But until next time, big thank you for tuning in. He's hoping that Joe Schmidt can find some sort of miracle between now and next Sunday morning against France, because we're absolutely going to need it. But again, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, hit subscribe down below and or on your favourite podcast platform. We look forward to talking to you again soon on your home of the Black and White of Sport. No grey opinions here.